As-salaam-alaykum. We're about to get into one of the heaviest, most powerful warnings the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, ever gave. It's a story about the very first three people who will face judgment. And what this story does is it zeroes in on the single most important part of our faith, the real reason, the intention that's hidden deep inside our hearts.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. It doesn't matter how amazing or righteous our actions look to other people. Allah's gaze goes right past all of that. He looks straight into our hearts, and that's where the real judgment happens. It's all about sincerity, what we call ikhlas. That's the only thing that determines if our deeds are even accepted.
Just to give you an idea of how serious this is, the companion who passed this story down to us, Abu Huraira, literally fainted 3 separate times. He was so overwhelmed by the sheer weight of this message that he couldn't even get the words out. So when we hear this, we need to understand it's not just a story. It's a terrifying glimpse into divine justice.
So let's look at the 3 people at the center of this warning. The truly shocking part is that these aren't your typical villains. In fact, from the outside, they look like the best of the best. They're people who did things that we would consider the absolute peak of good deeds.
First up, we have a man who died a martyr. Now, in our tradition, martyrdom is one of the highest honors, right? It's seen as a direct path to paradise. You'd think his case would be pretty straightforward. So he's brought before Allah, and he's reminded of the life and strength he was given. And when he's asked what he did with those blessings, his answer sounds perfect. He says, "I fought for your cause until I gave my very life." What could be better than that?
But then, the truth comes out from the one who knows every secret. You have lied. His real motivation? It wasn't to please God. It was for a reputation. He wanted people to say, "Wow, he's so courageous." And you know what? He got what he wanted. People said it. He already cashed in his reward right here in this world.
And the punishment is this incredible, terrifying reversal. All that honor he was chasing from people, it gets flipped into the ultimate shame. The order is given, and he's dragged on his face, the very same face he wanted people to see and praise, and thrown into the hellfire.
The second person follows a pattern that is just as chilling. This was a man of knowledge. He spent his life learning the religion, teaching it to others, and reciting the Quran beautifully. I mean, this is the guy you'd look at and think, he's a pillar of our community.
And just like the martyr, his defense sounds solid. He says he used his mind and his voice to serve the religion, all for the sake of Allah. It seems like the most noble way to spend a life.
But once again, the real intention is exposed. He didn't study so he could get closer to God. He studied so people would call him a scholar, an alim. He didn't recite the Quran to connect with the words of Allah. He did it so people would admire his recitation and call him a qari. He got his payment in those worldly titles.
And the end result? It's exactly the same. Even a life dedicated to sacred knowledge, if it's poisoned by a desire for fame, leads to the very same horrific end. He too is dragged on his face and cast into the fire. A terrifying pattern is starting to emerge. The third and final person is someone who is blessed with incredible wealth, and he wasn't stingy with it at all. In fact, he was known for his generosity, a philanthropist who gave to every good cause you can think of.
So he makes his case. He lists all his charity work, saying, "I spent my money in every single way that you love, and I did it all for you." On the surface, it seems like a slam-dunk case for righteousness.
And for the third time, that devastating verdict comes down, exposing the sickness in the heart. His charity wasn't an act of worship, it was a business transaction. He wasn't giving for God's pleasure, he was basically buying the title of generous. He was paying for prestige.
So let's just pause and think about this. 3 of the greatest deeds you can imagine, martyrdom, spreading knowledge, and giving charity, all end with the same terrifying punishment. Why? Because the intention, the very soul of the action, wasn't aimed at the Creator, it was aimed at the creation.
This leads us to the root cause, the spiritual sickness that led to this disaster. It's a concept that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said he feared for his followers more than almost anything else. He called it minor shirk, or hidden polytheism.
And that sickness is called riya. It's when you do an act of worship, something that belongs only to Allah, but you do it to be seen by people. You're looking for their praise, their likes, their admiration. It's so sneaky that the scholars said it's harder to spot than a black ant on a black rock in the middle of a dark night. It just eats away at our good deeds from the inside.
So let's put it side by side. On one hand, you have ikhlas, sincerity. That's when your only motivation is to please Allah. What you do on the outside matches what you feel on the inside. Then you have riyah, showing off. The action might look good, but the fuel is the praise of the crowd. It's the creator versus the creation.
Okay, so if Riyah is the disease, then what's the cure? What's the foundation that can protect our hearts from it? Well, it's a principle so important that some scholars have said it's basically 1/3 of the entire religion.
This is it. This famous hadith is the bedrock of everything. Think of it like a filter for every single thing we do. The first part means our actions are only valid if the intention is pure. And the second part, it means our reward is tied directly to what we intended. It's simple. If you intend Allah, you get the reward from Allah. If you intend praise from people, well, you get that praise. And that's it. Nothing else.
Look, I know this is all very heavy, but the point isn't to make us give up in despair. It's a diagnosis, but one that comes with a clear treatment plan. So let's talk about some practical steps we can take to guard our hearts. Here are 4 things we can actually do. First, build up a portfolio of secret good deeds, a charity that no one knows about, prayers you do when you're totally alone. These become your anchor. Second, before you do something in public, pause and ask yourself, would I still be doing this if nobody was watching? Third, when someone praises you, immediately turn that praise back to Allah, both in your heart and with your words. And finally, try to choose tasks that are helpful but not flashy. The unseen work is what really polishes the heart.
And that leaves us with the one single question we all need to constantly ask ourselves. It's the ultimate reality check. If you took away all the applause, all the likes, all the recognition, what would be left of your good deeds? That little bit that remains, that's what is truly and purely for Allah. And at the end of the day, that's the only part that will ever matter.